You are never going to hear me complain about going to Harvard Business School. That is the bomb. It's fantastic. I'll never forget the day I got in. It was one of the most exciting days of my life. But don't get the feeling that you learn everything there and it's the ticket to success, because you have to keep learning after you leave Harvard Business School. And if I could go back in time, here are 4 things that I wish I had learned when I was at Harvard Business School, because I had to learn them the hard way, just like you do in real life. The first, number 1 thing that I did not learn at Harvard Business School, and I'm not sure I can blame them for it, is I did not learn what my specific, unique values were or my aptitudes. Most people who end up at Harvard Business School pretty much share the same values. And I don't remember while I was there learning very much about aptitudes and values. The truth is that each one of us is really unique when it comes to these 2 areas, values and aptitudes. Let's take them in turn. Values, which most people don't even know what a value is. They think a value is a virtue like kindness or fairness or integrity, but values are really different. Values are the underlying, deeply held beliefs and motivations that drive how we live, how we interact with people, how much we work, what we do, who we marry. When you get to Harvard Business School, you're surrounded by people who pretty much share your values. You wouldn't be there unless you had a high value, for instance, on achievement or on affluence or on what we call non-SIBI, which is helping other people. Why? Because the admissions department is looking very closely for people who like to help other people. You wouldn't be accepted if you didn't. So there wasn't a lot of discussion around values. There was a lot of discussion around virtues, like you should never lie. You should always do what you say you're going to do. You should be fair. These are all virtues and everybody should have more of them. But I left Harvard Business School, to be honest, not knowing what my actual unique values were. Let's talk about aptitudes. Aptitudes are actually kind of our preloaded software. They're how our brain is wired, and they reflect how we approach work. There are a lot of really distinct aptitudes. Are you a generalist or a specialist? Are you a person who thinks in the future, a future focuser, or are you a present focuser? Let me use an analogy. When you write your signature and you write with your dominant hand, you are leaning into an aptitude. Your aptitude is either to be right-handed or left-handed. You could spend your entire life writing with your non-dominant hand, and that's what it feels like to do work that is not aligned with one of your cognitive intellectual aptitudes. I'll keep pointing to my brain because that's where your aptitudes are located. I went through Harvard Business School without knowing anything about values and not knowing what my aptitudes were. Later, when I got into the workplace, I found out, oh, I'm quite good at this kind of work, and I'm kind of not as good at that kind of work compared to other people. And it probably took me 10 to 15 years to really sort out and to be able to say, no, I should be doing this kind of work. I'm a brainstormer. I'm a future focuser, and finding the work that was really aligned with how my brain was actually wired. That is what I wish I knew. Boy, I wish I knew it when I was in my 20s or even earlier. My values, my deeply held beliefs about how I want to show up in this world and how I want to live, and my aptitudes, what I'm uniquely good at, because I'm pre-wired that way. All right, here's number 2 for what I didn't actually get taught at Harvard Business School, but boy, you learn it eventually, all of us do, and that's how to receive feedback with grace, all right? Now, one of the reasons they don't teach it at Harvard Business School is that they just expect your grade to give you the feedback. And frankly, when I was there was a small number of people who got what was called a high pass. There was a larger number of people who got sort of a pass. And then there was a small group of people, 20%, who got a low pass. And they were said to hit the screen. Their names came up at the end of the semester, boom, hit the screen, and poof, over vacation, they usually disappeared from your class. And that was all the feedback you got. You wanted to stay out of that. I don't believe that they do that way anymore. But now in the real world, and you don't get a grade. That's the thing about when you leave school. You don't have that feedback of a grade just telling you how you're doing. And you have to learn to receive feedback that's not usually given to you straight between the eyes with a boss sitting there and saying, look, here's what you could do better. It's just awkward to give hard feedback. And so then you get it, and you usually get it in the worst possible way. Somebody kind of explodes. You do something poorly and they burst out and they say, not again, or how could you keep doing this? Or there's layoffs, and for some reason, some people stay and some people go, and you're among the people who go. And that's the first time you find out that you're not doing a good job. So feedback in any workplace is given very poorly. If you demonstrate really early on that you want feedback, and when it's given to you, you take it in a spirit of constructiveness and positivity, and you say, oh, thank you so much. That really, maybe it stung a little bit when you told it to me at first, but I see the truth in it and I'm going to improve on it. And when somebody's giving you feedback, they say this is how it typically goes. They say something really nice, Then they say what they really want to tell you, which is kind of negative. And then they say something really, really nice again. We love having you here. You just bring such spirit to the office. We notice that you're really not getting back to clients on time. But everyone really loves you. And so you leave the meeting and you think, I think that was a positive meeting. When you hear that little bit of fuzzy negative feedback in the middle of the sandwich, okay, you got to stop and say, I'm sorry, I'd like you to back up. Can we focus more on what you said in the middle there about how I'm not actually showing up as well as you'd like me to? And then you have to hover there and you have to keep asking questions and you have to do it in a way that is terribly non-defensive. And if you have to force yourself to smile because it signals to the person you're talking to that you are willing to keep listening, that you have emotional regulation and you're able to hear hard things without flipping your lid. This is going to hold you in very good stead. And even if you're getting negative feedback, the fact that you could take it and hear it and process it without an emotional collapse is really going to help you in the long run. So don't fear negative feedback. Fear not being able to take it. Because at the end of the day, a company will ask you to leave rather than keep a person who can take negative feedback in a way that demonstrates that they want to get better and they want to help the whole team. Now, in my classes at NYU Stern, I actually teach my students how to give and get feedback. And guess what? We actually practice it. They sit in groups with somebody else. I make up scenarios. One person gives hard feedback. The other person has to take it. And then they switch roles. Because your boss generally does not like to give feedback because he or she's incredibly busy and he or she doesn't want to hurt your feelings, you can actually get on their calendar and say, hey, I'm here just to take 15 minutes of your time to get some feedback. And frankly, I'd like to invite you to be extremely candid. I'm really ready for it. I want to grow. I want to learn. I know I'm not perfect. So please tell me your candid feedback in ways that I can grow and improve. And I'm here to assure you that I'm going to take it in the spirit in which I know it's given. And now for number 3. Oh, it took me years and years to find this out. And it's this. Companies are like families. They have history. When you meet somebody for the first time and maybe you're going to start dating, okay? And slowly but surely over the first and second and third date, you find out that they have a history. And you find out what makes them who they are, the various things that happened in their life, the trauma, the dysfunction, the good things also. Companies are just like that. And yet when we show up, we sort of take the company on face value, or at least I did. When you walk in the door, your boss doesn't say to you, let me tell you all about this company's lore. Let me tell you all about its secrets. Let me tell you about its unwritten rules. They usually let people just find that out on their own, and it can take years. When a student presents to me with a problem at work or sort of talks about which job offer they want to take, I start to ask them, well, what's the history of that company? What's the texture of that company? What's the story of that company? We are all just entering each other's narratives, okay, to get kind of philosophical about it. So you want to know the true narrative of the company that you're joining. And the sooner you can do that, even if you can do it as early as the interview process, the better it is for you. All right, here's the 4th and final thing. And I don't want to say that I fully did not learn it at Harvard Business School. I think they teed me up for it. I think they put the seed in our head, but they never actually bluntly said it, which is at work, unlike in school, there are very few second chances. So when you're in school and you skip a quiz or you miss a class, a teacher often will give you a second chance or partial credit. There are a lot of ways to make up for it if you haven't done that well during the semester. And the truth is that in the real world, if you really, really screw up at work, you do not get partial credit. You can't go negotiate a solution. And they may not fire you right away, but here's something that's kind of worse in a way. You get what's called an embedded reputation. Okay, it sticks to you. That person doesn't finish what they say they're going to finish. That person loses clients because they don't have any emotional regulation. And then when the moment comes, they let you go and you wonder, what? I made that mistake 6 months ago, but the facts are you lost your second chance long ago. You got an embedded reputation. It's on you. Nobody talks about it to your face. Because a lot of times you have to leave a company to start again if you've got an embedded reputation. So don't let any school, and it wasn't just HBS, and frankly, they were pretty blunt with us about it if we didn't do well, but if you kept on getting a pass and a pass and a pass and a pass, you'd graduate. In the real world, good enough is usually not good enough, and failure can stick to you unless you have a lot of wins. So I didn't get that taught to me explicitly. I teach it to my students explicitly now. And sometimes when I'm saying it, to be very honest with you, I can look into their faces and I know they don't like hearing it. I was actually on my book tour, and I was in Chicago, and a young woman came up to me and signing my books, and she said, look, I just got into HBS. I'm going to be starting there in the fall. Do you have any advice for me? And I said to her, at one point, Harvard Business School is going to get very hard. They design it so in the middle of first semester, you feel like you can't go on. It's too hard. The other people are just so incredibly smart. And you wonder, what am I doing here? And I want to assure you that every single person is there for a reason. They have a lot of people to choose from, and they chose you. Don't ever forget that you have a reason to be there. So, I mean, it's a great experience. It brings you to your knees, and then it props you back up again. No shade on it, but they don't teach you everything. And so I hope that these 4 tips today gave you a short lesson on what I didn't learn there and wish I had, and I hope that they're useful to you.